Hi, my name is Tracy, and this is my story of how I went from rags to riches in the craziest way possible. For as long as I can remember, Mom and I have lived at a shelter. I never knew my dad, but I did know that he must have been a massive jerk to dump Mom, because she was a legit angel. She was always taking medicine for her heart problems, but she was also helping people at the shelter even though they didn't pay her. She taught me that the most important thing in the world was to always be kind. On my first day in first grade, I noticed that everyone was wearing the prettiest clothes, while I was wearing an oversized t-shirt and shorts that came to my feet. As soon as Mom left, I took a deep breath and walked over to a bunch of girls. Hi, I'm the prettiest girl in the group. Amy turned to me and said,
Ew, you look like a cartoon. And so did your nanny.
That's not my nanny, that's my mommy. She burst out laughing.
You're as ugly as your mommy.
Before she could say another word, I attacked her. The teachers pulled us apart and made us hug it out. For the next few years, school continued like that. Amy became my biggest nemesis and was always trying to be a pain in my butt. One day when I was in the 8th grade, I was walking to school when I suddenly heard a strange scratching sound from behind the dumpster. I decided to take a look. It was an adorable little puppy trying to hide under an old cardboard box. I picked it up and wrapped it in my school jacket. Hey there, little guy. You lost? Just then, I noticed it was wearing a collar made of diamonds. Aw, baby. Someone loves you. Just then, a manic-looking man in a suit came running out and out of another alley. The minute he saw me, he charged straight towards me and snatched the puppy from my arms. Hey, what are you? Before I could finish, a woman dressed in really fancy clothes and heels came running after him, and she started screaming when she saw the puppy. Had these crazies broken out of some rich people's mental hospital? Oh, my kushushu, pushushu boo boo, baby, mama missed you. And then she turned to me angrily. You were trying to steal my dog. Excuse me, I wasn't trying to steal your dog. I just picked him up from the street. To steal him? Or his collar? No, to help him. I'm not some common thief. Finally, the woman looked like she believed me, and she said, Fine. You saved my Jimmy, and I don't want to owe you any favors. My car is parked there. Come with me, now. I said no, and that she was a stranger. Then she nodded to her driver, who made me get in the car immediately. Take us to the big bazaar, and let's get her whatever she wants. We reached there, and as the driver was walking in with me, I spotted the nearby pharmacy and said I wanted to go there. When she asked me why, I said the only thing I wanted to buy was medicine for my sick mom. I even took out the prescription and showed it to him. The driver walked back to the lady and explained everything to her. She looked really surprised and then nodded. Once I'd bought the meds, she offered to drop me back home. As soon as we got there, I realized the bridge between our two worlds, her fancy car and my old shabby shelter home. I felt kind of embarrassed, so I quickly thanked her and ran inside. But to my surprise, the woman was waiting for me outside the shelter the next day, and she had a doctor with her. She had brought him to check up on my mother. After a thorough examination, the doctor said the meds were not the right ones, and he immediately changed them. After the new prescription, Mom started to feel better in a few days. I felt so happy and relieved. I called the woman up and thanked her for her kindness. She laughed and said, Don't go soft on me, kid. Consider this a favor repaid. I thought that was the end of it and I wouldn't see the woman again. But to my surprise, the next day her car was outside the shelter again. As soon as I saw her, I rushed towards her and hugged her. She hugged me back. I gave her a flower I'd picked up on my way and her face lit up. Now that your mom is taken care of, I hope we can buy something for you today. We went inside the mall and had so much fun together. She took me to every boutique and shoe store in the mall. After I had literally shopped till I was ready to drop, she dragged me to the ice cream place and then we went to the arcade. We spent hours playing every game we could, although she was even worse than I was. Over time, we grew quite close. One day when I went to school, Amy was lazily leaning against my locker waiting to torture me as usual. Hey, Patches. How many times are you going to patch up that ugly coat? It's beginning to look like a quilt now. I completely ignored her as I removed my coat, and then suddenly everyone gasped. I was wearing some of the new clothes the rich lady had bought for me the day before, and then they noticed my Prada bag.
What did you do, Tracy? Rob a bank?
Oh, I just decided to take fashion a little seriously. And let me give you some advice. That shade of green on your face is a really ugly look. Everyone was suddenly taking me more serious now that I was better dressed, and even coming over to me for fashion tips. I knew it was pretty shallow of them, but seeing how much it bothered Amy made it worth it. One day when we were at lunch, Amy and her minions walked up to me. She glared at me as though she'd eat me alive. Suddenly, I realized we were wearing the same outfit.
Admit it. You're wearing a cheap copy. There's no way you can afford an original limited edition.
I don't know, Amy. Yours looks like the wrong shade of white. Are you sure you're not wearing a copy? The minions' eyes widened and they started to whisper, and Amy turned a horrible shade of red.
How dare you! I'll tell you what the wrong shade of white is.
And with that, she dumped her cup of coffee on my white outfit. I was furious. And before long, we had broken out into a full-fledged food fight right in the middle of the cafeteria. The kids gathered around us, screaming and yelling. Suddenly, 2 teachers broke us apart and dragged us to the principal's office. Oh no, I knew what this meant. Our parents would be called in. Sure enough, 30 minutes later, Mom came rushing in. She took one look at us and started apologizing to the principal. Then she turned to me. I'm so disappointed in you, Tracy. I always told you to be kind. But Mom... No buts, young lady. Then to my sheer horror, she turned to Amy, who was scowling in the corner. Where's your mom, sweetie? I'll say sorry to her too. Those stains will be a pain to wash out. But Amy shook her off angrily.
Don't touch me, and mind your own freaking business.
The principal told Mom that neither of Amy's parents had time to come. So Mom just smiled and said it was okay. Then Amy and I apologized and walked out. Outside, the rich woman was waiting for me. As soon as I saw her, I ran to her. Suddenly, I heard someone say,
Are you freaking kidding me?
I turned around and saw Amy glaring at us.
You hypocrite. You didn't have time for me, but you do for these down and outs.
Wait, what was going on? Hey, watch your mouth. Who do you think you are, huh?
Oh, great question. Why don't you tell her who I am, Mom?
What? Are you her mom? You said you didn't have any kids.
Oh, am I dead to you for good?
Amy, stop it. Amy stared at her mother with rage in her eyes.
No, you don't get to tell me anything anymore. Don't act all mommy dearest now when you haven't even bothered to talk to me in ages.
What? You don't talk to your own daughter? What kind of mother are you? Tracy, Amy, I can explain. I was all so confused and puzzled. She'd been going around acting like a great mom figure to me, while she acted like her own daughter didn't even exist. I just turned around abruptly and ran home. I kept ignoring the rich woman's texts and calls because I was still reeling with shock over what had happened. But eventually, I decided that she deserved a chance to explain herself. And I told her that I would meet her after school. But as I was heading out of school the next day, I felt someone pull me by the back of my shirt. It was Amy, looking like a psycho.
And where do you think you're going? To meet my mother?
I shook her off. It's none of your business, Amy. And whatever is going on between you and your mom is not my fault.
You better not meet her ever again, Tracy, or I'll have you and your mother kicked out of the shelter.
Oh, yeah? How do you think you can even do that? Her face twisted into an evil smile.
Oh, my dad's a really powerful person on the city council. And once he tells the shelter people that you and your mom robbed my poor mother to buy branded clothes, they definitely won't be keeping thieves there.
Just looking at her face, I knew she meant what she said. I hated being bullied by Amy like this, but I couldn't afford to land myself and Mom on the streets. I texted the rich woman to never contact me again. I even sent back everything she'd given me and went back to being my old, invisible self at school. Days turned into weeks, and before I knew it, 2 years had gone by without talking to the rich woman. Even though I kept my end of the bargain, Amy kept bullying me at school. And the psycho even started following me around in her car. Once I was buying ice cream at the grocery store when she popped out from behind a shelf and completely startled me.
Aha! That's my mother's favorite ice cream. I know you're still seeing her.
She kept accusing me of still seeing her mom, and of course, nothing I said could convince her otherwise. I was just glad I was leaving school soon. On graduation day, I ran to hug Mom after receiving my high school diploma. I heard Amy's voice and turned to see her standing behind us.
Aw, isn't this such a sweet mother-daughter moment? Sorry to ruin it, but I have some news that's too good to keep from you any longer.
And with that, she shoved a paper in my hands, and Mom and I stared at it in horror. It was a notice from the city council saying that our shelter would be permanently shut down because it had lost its funding. How can you do something like this? Do you have any idea how many people will lose their homes?
I forgot the part where that's my problem. All I care about is you losing yours, and Daddy will make sure it happens.
And I will make sure that it does not. We all turned around to see the rich woman. She took the paper from my hand and said she would pay whatever funds the shelter needed to stay open, and there was nothing Amy's dad could do to stop that. Amy looked like she was about to explode. Amy's mom turned to her and said, "Your dad is always trying to make you just like him, Amy, but I know you're better than that. He kept you away from me, but you're old enough to decide now, darling." Amy looked into her mom's eyes and shrugged off her hand.
No, I'm going to stay with Dad. You can be a mother to 100 street rats like her for all I care.
Just then, the principal came running towards us and said, "Oh, you must be Amy's mother. I've been waiting for one of her parents to show up. I wanted to let you know that Amy can't graduate. She will have to repeat a year."
What? You can't do that.
And then she left crying like a little baby. I was really happy to see the rich woman again, and I apologized to her for cutting her out of my life. "There's no need for explanations, Tracy, and I'll save your shelter. But why don't you and your mom come to live with me in my big, lonely mansion?" Long story short, we did finally agree to move in with her, and I was actually really glad that the two had each other's company as I moved away for a few years for university. I met a wonderful guy there, and after graduation, we moved back to my hometown so I could help the rich woman manage her business. I'm a successful businesswoman now with 2 beautiful kids and 2 doting grandmas who are always happy to babysit.